Hello everyone. So in this very video, we will be learning about carbohydrates, okay? So while we were in primary school and of course secondary school, some of us actually learned that carbohydrates are energy-giving foods. Are you following? Of course, carbohydrates are still energy-giving foods and they will still remain energy-giving food. Are you following? But then the definition requires some furnishing, okay? So what are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are simply biomolecules or organic compounds that contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And this is the general formula for carbohydrates: CH2O and then N. Are you following? These very elements, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, actually meet in the ratio of 1:2:1. Do you understand? And our N stands for the number of carbon atoms. Are you following? So where N is simply 6. Okay, when N is 6, our carbohydrate becomes C6H12O6. And this is simply what? Glucose. Are you following? Good. Now, where N is equal to 5, our carbohydrate changes to C5H10O5. And this is simply what? Ribose. Do you understand? Any confusion? No. All right. Now, carbohydrates are simply of three major and main types. Are you following? Carbohydrates are simply of three major types. And what are the types of carbohydrates? We have what we call the monosaccharides. We have what we call the disaccharides. And we have what we call the polysaccharides. Are you following? So carbohydrates are of three types majorly. We have the monosaccharides, the disaccharides, and the polysaccharides. Now, how do we explain these types of carbohydrates? Come with me to the board. Now, the word mono, can I say the prefix mono stands for one. In sciences, the prefix mono is one. All right? Saccharide. Here in chemistry, saccharide is simply sugar. Of course, I can still call saccharide glucose. I can even call it carbohydrate. Are you following? So, monosaccharide, one sugar. Do you understand? So, what are monosaccharides? Monosaccharides are simply carbohydrates that are made of what? One glucose unit. Are you following? They contain only one sugar, that is one glucose unit. Are you with me? What are the examples of monosaccharides? So let's have monosaccharides. So monosaccharides. What are the examples? So we have three examples of monosaccharides. We have Mr. Glucose. Are you following? We have Mr. Fructose. And we have Mr. Galactose. Do you understand? These are the three different examples of what? Of monosaccharides. They contain only one glucose unit. Are you following? Now, let's move on. We have disaccharides. The word di means two. Saccharide is sugar. So what are the examples of disaccharides? So disaccharides are simply carbohydrates that are made of what? Of more than one glucose unit. They have two glucose units and they come from what? The combination of two monosaccharides. So when you have two monosaccharides combined together, they give you what is called a disaccharide. Now, one example, we have three examples of disaccharides. Let's look at them one after the other. So glucose plus glucose, right? Glucose plus glucose is equal to maltose. So maltose is a disaccharide. Are you following at all? Let's continue. Now, glucose plus galactose will give us lactose. Lactose is also a disaccharide. Are you following at all? Correct. Now, glucose plus fructose will give us sucrose. Sucrose is also a what? A disaccharide. Now, Do you have any question? Consider this very well. You could see that for me to have a disaccharide, I first of all join a glucose to another monosaccharide, meaning that in each of the disaccharides, there must be a glucose unit. Do you understand? So glucose plus glucose is maltose, glucose plus galactose is lactose, glucose plus fructose is what? Is sucrose. And these are our what? Our disaccharides. Now, carbohydrates majorly are classified into two. We have what we call the simple sugars and the complex sugars. Are you following? Now, both monosaccharides and disaccharides are simple sugars. Do you understand? So it means that monosaccharides like glucose, fructose, and galactose are what? Are simple sugars. And of course, disaccharides like maltose, lactose, and sucrose are also what? Simple sugars. Do you understand? How about our complex sugars? So our complex sugars are simply what? Polysaccharides. And what are polysaccharides? Now, polysaccharides are carbohydrates that contain more than 2 glucose units. Some of them reach even up to 50 glucose units. Are you following? Now, let's look at their examples, okay? So, for our polysaccharides, we have three major examples that I will be giving us today. All right, in this very video, I'll be giving us three examples of what? Polysaccharides. Number one example of polysaccharide is glycogen. Number two example of polysaccharide is starch. Number three examples of polysaccharide is cellulose. These are examples of polysaccharides which are what? Complex sugars. Are you following? Now, in these very polysaccharides, we have two storage polysaccharides which are also carbohydrates. Are you following? Now, glycogen in your biology is the storage form of what? Of glucose. In what? In man. Or of course, let's say in animals. Are you following? So animals store carbohydrates in form of what? Glucose. Okay? So animals store glucose in form of what? Glycogen. Animals store glucose in form of what? In form of glycogen. Do you understand? And glycogen is what? Is a storage polysaccharide. Confirm. Let's continue. So starch. Plants. Plants actually store glucose in form of starch. Plants actually store glucose in form of starch. So the storage form of glucose in animals is simply glycogen, and then the storage form of glucose in plants is simply starch. And these are what? They are simply polysaccharides. Any confusion? So let me run us through all these. I said carbohydrates are simply biomolecules or organic compounds that are simply made of carbon, hydrogen, and what? And oxygen. Are you following at all? Then I went on to tell us that they meet in the ratio of 1:2:1. Are you following? And that the general formula for carbohydrates is what? Is CH2O and N, where N is the number of what? Of carbons. And I told us that where N is 6, our carbohydrate becomes glucose, which is C6H12O6. Are you following? Then where N changes to 5, our carbohydrate becomes ribose. Ribose is simply C5H10O5. Are you following? And then we went on to look at the types of carbohydrates. I said we have three major types, which are simply what? The monosaccharides, the disaccharides, and what? The polysaccharides. I went on to let us know that the monosaccharides are simply carbohydrates that are made of 1 glucose unit. And then I went on to state their examples. Monosaccharides, we have glucose, fructose, and galactose. Then I did not stop there. I went on to tell us that disaccharides are carbohydrates with what? With 2 glucose units. Are you following? That is when you combine 2 monosaccharides, you have 1 disaccharide. So went on to have glucose plus glucose to give us maltose. Maltose is a disaccharide. Went on to have glucose plus galactose, which gave us lactose. Lactose is a disaccharide. Went on to have glucose plus fructose, which gave us sucrose. Sucrose is also a disaccharide. Then we went on to learn the two classifications of what? Of carbohydrates. I said carbohydrates are of two classes. We have the simple sugars and the complex sugars. The simple sugars are simply our mono and disaccharides. Are you following? While the complex sugars are our polysaccharides. Okay. Now for the polysaccharides, we looked at them. We have the glycogen, the starch, and then the cellulose. Okay. Now two of these polysaccharides are storage polysaccharides. The glycogen is the storage form of glucose in animals, while the starch is the storage form of glucose in plants. Do you have any question? Feel free to give me a follow. I still remain Teacher Luca. You could just subscribe to my YouTube channel. Should you have questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you and bye.